Hi, I'm Laurie Morrison. I'm the author of 4 novels for middle school aged readers, and today I want to tell you about how writers have the power to control time, at least on the pages of our stories. We've probably all had the experience of how sometimes it's as if time slows down and everything drags by and takes forever. And then sometimes, usually when something fun is happening, it's as if time speeds up and just zooms right past. Well, one of the important parts of my revision process in all my novels is to make strategic choices about when a scene isn't that important or interesting and I can just zoom right past it, and when, on the other hand, a scene is really important and therefore I need to slow down time and enrich the scene so that it takes up more space on the page by adding things like more sensory details, more of the character's thoughts and feelings, more descriptions about what's going on. So I want to give you an example from my next novel, Coming Up Short. Coming Up Short, here's the cover. It comes out June 21st, 2022, and it is the story of a 13-year-old star shortstop named B who loves softball more than anything else in the world, but after her dad makes a big mistake that costs him his job and his reputation, B cannot think straight. She falls apart on the field during the championship game because she just gets stuck in her head and can't seem to make a simple throw to first base. I'm going to read you a scene that takes place during this disastrous championship game just after B has walked off the field at the end of an inning. And in an almost final draft of this book, this little scene was 234 words. But then I had a writer friend, one of my critique partners, read the book for me at that stage, and I asked her to just flag anything that she thought wasn't quite as strong as it could be. And she flagged this scene, and she left me a note in the margin that said, "I just don't feel this in my heart." Now, this is a really important scene. The way B feels in this moment really propels her to make a big choice that sets the rest of the plot in motion. So I need readers to feel this moment in their hearts. So I went back in and I slowed down time. The scene went from 234 words to a little under 400 words. I added in more sensory detail, more thoughts and feelings, more descriptions. Here's the final scene. "B, are you okay?" Coach Yang asks when I get to the bench. I want to tell her I'm fine. I'll do better. Next inning, I'll play like myself. But when I think about going back out on that field, my ribs press down on my lungs, squeezing out all the air. I shake my head. "Honey," she says, and the word sounds wrong. Coach Yang is not the kind of grown-up who calls kids honey. "I'm going to move Amelia to shortstop, but I'd like to keep your bat in the lineup. I'll put you in right field just for today, all right?" Right field, where the weakest fielder goes, banishing me from the infield. My teammates are clustered together at the other end of the bench, as far away from me as possible. Amelia whispers something to Jessie, who glances at me with worried eyes, and my throat goes so tight I can't swallow. "I'm so sorry," I tell Coach, and I really, really am. I can't. I can't. I pull the brim of my hat down over my eyes, hurrying past my teammates to pick up my stuff. I focus on the dirt stain down the side of my white softball pants and the way my spikes sink into the grass as I make my way to Mom, whose lips are pressed together so tightly they've disappeared. "Oh, B," she says, "can you please take me home?" My voice comes out weak, tiny. I've never heard of a player leaving a championship game unless they're so hurt they have to be carried off the field. It's horrible to abandon my team. I know it is, but I can't stay here another minute. Mom hesitates. "I don't want you to regret leaving." "Please," I beg. She nods, gets up, and puts her arm around me. I tell myself to keep my head down as we walk away from the field, but I look up once, and everyone's watching. Xander, Tyson, Jesse's little brothers, everybody else's parents, all the other kids from my school. "That poor girl," a lady I don't know murmurs, and my heart cracks. I'm not a gutsy, fearless softball star. I'm a quitter. I'm a head case. I'm that poor girl. Okay, so none of the action in this scene changed at all. None of the dialogue even changed at all. But I went in and added what B wants to say, what she thinks about and how her body feels when she looks back at the field and thinks about going back out there and just can't. I added her noticing how far away her teammates are and sort of wondering about what they're saying. I added her pulling down the brim of her hat and focusing on that dirt stain on her pants and the way her spikes dig into the grass. I just tried to slow down time a little bit so that this moment gets a little bit more page space and a little bit more detail to really pull readers in. On the other hand, there were other places in the book where I did the opposite at a pretty far along stage in the editing process. So another friend, another critique partner, read the book for me at a similar stage. And soon after this point, B makes a big decision. She decides that she just has to get away from everything. And so she gives up her spot in this sleepaway softball camp that she was supposed to attend with her close friends from the team. And instead, she decides to go visit her aunt, who she's barely ever met before, who lives in a place called Gray Island. And in Gray Island, there is another softball camp that B hopes to go to that is run by her absolute softball idol. So in an almost finished version of the book, there was a very short, mostly summarized scene where B's parents say goodbye to her outside the airport, and then there was a longer scene where B was at the gate and then getting onto the plane. And a second critique partner pointed out, it feels a little weird that you skip right past B saying goodbye to her parents when her parents and her relationship with them are so important to her and to the story. And I realized she was right. So I slowed down that moment and gave the goodbye outside the airport just a little bit more page space. And then I realized, no one really needs to see B waiting at the gate or getting on the plane. In real life, we'd have to live through the sort of dull moments, but in a book, we can just skip. So the good stuff that I wanted to get in there about what B was thinking before she left all went into the scene with her parents, and then boom, end of chapter. The next chapter starts when she's getting off the plane in Gray Island, when the next interesting thing happens. So I hope that these examples give you a sense of the power that we have as writers to control the passage of time in our work by deciding what really matters and therefore needs to get enriched with lots of detail, and what doesn't matter so much and therefore can get cut completely or just cut down. This especially bears true in fiction, but I think that it's true in any kind of writing that you do, whether it's a personal essay, personal narrative, or an analytical essay even. We make choices about what matters, and we develop those points with evidence, with explanation, with analysis in an essay, or with lots of detail, sensory detail and description and internal narration if it's fiction or creative nonfiction. So I hope that these examples help you use that power to control time for good in your own writing. And I hope they also show the value of feedback at all stages of a writing process and how much somebody else's fresh eyes, somebody else's perspective can help you enrich your work and make it the best it can be.